Welcome in on the Bluff podcast. Looks like we're episode 108. Gabe Kuhn back with you.
Let's
I
go,
have
Gabe.
been pretty flaky the past few weeks doing
For
my
very good
reason.
reason.
People
Very
understand
good
why.
reason. Yes.
People understand why. No Christian Fowler this week, though, and joining me, the mainstay, really, of the On the Bluff podcast the past few weeks, Kenny Stubblefield. Kenny, what's happening, brother?
I just want you to know, I feel kind of used I feel kind of just like tossed around by you and Christian. Like, hey, go with Gabe this week. Go with Christian this week. Go with Gabe this week. I'm like, can I just have one boo, please? Like, can you?
And you
Gabe,
honestly, you don't bat an eye. You don't bat an eye. You don't complain until now. I guess this is your first time complaining about it. But we're bro. We are thankful for you. I can tell you that right now. We're just through the holiday seasons. We are thankful for you, Mr. Kenny Stubblefield.
I'm thankful for you, man. How's Myers doing? How's Myers? Give us a Myers update, man.
Here's an update. Doing well. Growing. We have another checkup here in about a week. We'll see how much he's been growing. But I'm around him so much I can't really tell. But people that have not seen him for weeks at a time, they have come back and said he's grown pretty substantially. He's starting to make eye contact, look around the room a little bit more.
Have we started
a little human?
Have we started?
Yeah, he's getting more abrupt with his kick sets, with his pass sets. So we're getting there, little by little, brother.
How are his hands? Like his hands?
We got to work on him. We got to work on him. We got to work on inside hand placement. But other than that, we're doing pretty well. How were your holidays, brother?
Dude, they're good, man. I was telling Christian I was telling him last week, we have it down to a science, bro. Like in terms of how we do family stuff. We have Tracy's family, my extended family, they come in from out of town, and they come in a week before Christmas, and we spend about 4 days with them. Then we have about 3 days of just the four of us, me, Tracy, and the kids. And then I am directly in the middle of my side of the family that's coming in from out of town. They're here now. They're here for like a week, and we spend time with them during that period. So it's like, it's long, but there's segmented portions of it, and I get that like 3 or 4 day break in between where I'm like,
okay, that's nice. It's not like a Four Christmases scene. You know what I mean? You've seen Four Christmases, Vince Vaughn, Reese Witherspoon. Yes. You get some time in between. You don't do all in the same day.
Speaking of Four Christmases, where does that rank to you,
brother? For me, I got to be honest, it would be inside my top 10. It's inside my top 10. Pretty good.
It's like top 5, top 3 for Tracy because she comes from a family of divorce, and so she had multiple family, and so she's like, this all feels so real. It's such a good movie, man.
Honestly, though, I gotta be honest, I can't imagine doing something like that.
No,
like, so your wife, she's a trooper if she had to go through that in her younger years, or you probably had to do it a couple of times.
I will tell you this, man. My wife is a trooper. She's married to me, number one. She grew up.
That's fair.
In that situation, she's a trooper on many levels, bro. On many levels. She's a saint. Like I'm like, if I had to deal with some of the things that she's had to deal with, I would have been either in jail for a very long time or in an insane asylum. Like one of the two. I'd be somewhere. So
so she's got a good head on her shoulders. She
the best.
She definitely takes care of herself. She's learned to fend for herself. Now, New Year's plans? You got any New Year's plans? Or are you just sitting on your ass like me watching the ball drop?
Those are my New Year plans. They've been my New Year's plans for like 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I've done everything I could possibly do party wise on New Year's. It's like there's nothing new you could really show me to like entice me out of the house.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done the party bus and the bottle service and just going to a bar, going downtown St. Louis.
Were you on the party bus Mark Giannotto wrote about?
No, wasn't that Evan Barnes who wrote about that, though?
No, that was Giannotto. That was definitely Giannotto.
Okay, so the real story I heard, so this is the party bus during COVID in 2020 for the Memphis football team. I heard it was just somebody's like family van.
They rented a van.
Yeah, and they were just driving people around.
They was just one player.
It's got to be the most like one of the most mountain out of a molehill stories. And obviously we had a bunch of those during COVID. But that one was insane.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you misconstrue like some Sprinter van where there's a couple of people riding home in it?
Yeah.
To a party bus. Like those are two completely different things.
I mean, it literally made ESPN.com, bro. Like it was on.
But it was Evan. It was Evan Barnes, I'm pretty sure, who wrote that story. It was Mark who did the original reporting. Well, shout out to Mark, brother, because he's still tweeting about Memphis, even though he's off there in Chicago doing the sort of national work there.
Yeah, Mark lit Grizzlies Twitter on fire the other day. It's been 2 years since John Morant has played 5 games straight.
Well, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong, but thank you for saying that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know. It did feel a little overly negative.
Yeah,
in a moment where there's a bunch of injuries that we'll talk about in the hot 3.
We're going to talk about that.
Grizzlies fans don't want to approach right now. You're sitting there at number 2 in the West, 22-11. I don't think there's a lot of people that want to talk about the negativity and that John Morant hasn't played 5 straight games in 2 years.
After it came off of an Oklahoma City loss where it was just kind of like, oh yeah, God, like, dude.
And we real quick before we don't usually start in places like this, and we're going to get to the Tigers in just a moment. The massive win over Ole Miss that propelled them into the AP top 25. But that game is kind of a reminder as to why the NBA and the ratings have struggled a tad bit. There's just, you don't know who's in and out of the lineups. We've been talking about this. Everybody's trying to find this this answer that's so to me incredibly obvious as to why the ratings have dropped. The ratings have dropped because you don't have the star players on the floor night to night. Yeah. I don't think it's that complicated. That game is number 1 and number 2 in the West, and one team is running out of mash unit. That's why. And that happens more often than not in these big matchups. So, that is the reason year over year, we've seen the past 5 to 10 years, the ratings drop to a certain extent. But also, people with that ratings conversation don't want to talk about the fact that the NBA Christmas Day games were up, 85%?
85%.
Right.
Even though they were still 1/5 of the numbers the NFL put up.
Well, but you ain't catching up to the NFL, brother.
The NFL, that doesn't need to be what you go for, right? Like, you're not trying to go after the NFL here. You're trying to increase your ratings. But do you not think, though, real quick, you talked about the dropping of ratings, and we've never talked about NBA stuff in the first segment, but we'll just do it for a second.
Right.
Do you not think, though, that the part of it is the rise of streaming and the rise of where to watch games and the fact that
I think that could be part of it. But Kenny, I think overarchingly people have problems with the game because of load management, not seeing the star players consistently. And I also think the NBA hasn't done a great job. They're trying to move the next generation of player into the spotlight. But they haven't done a great job of moving on from LeBron, Steph, and KD, because you're still hanging on to those guys because they're still unbelievable. Yeah. LeBron turned 40 today, by the way. Happy birthday to LeBron James, 40 years young. Those guys are still damn good.
Yeah.
So you don't know when to sort of take the shine or the camera off of them and put it on Ant and Ja and all these different players, this new crop of guys.
Right. I agree.
And you're sort of in this middle ground. But man, that since I've been out, that has been one of the main topics of conversation on social media and on national television. It's been ridiculous to watch how people have tried to rationalize it. I think it's pretty simple. I think it's a pretty obvious answer as to why those ratings are the way they are.
Yeah, the hoops that folks are trying to wrap themselves through to figure out why the ratings aren't as good as they have been hilarious. The reasons, the stories, the things that people are saying has been wild. But
I also do think the old heads do shit talk the game a little bit too much for my liking. But that's been forever.
Which is why everybody's been talking about Inside the NBA going away, and I'm I'm cool with it going away because that show is annoying as hell to me. Because they just talk too much trash about the game right now. They just do.
Nothing beats the Shaq and Charles Barkley back and forths, man.
It's okay.
Just once in a while they give you that great comedy.
I want to talk hoops, bro.
But usually the comedy comes at the expense of some city, Galveston or San Antonio's women.
Who did
but at the same time, it is kind of funny still. That's the draw to that show. So.
Barkley did call San Francisco the armpit of America the other week, talking about, and which is hilarious because guess where the All-Star game is this year for the NBA?
Right.
It's in San Francisco.
Can I ask this question too, real quick, and then we're moving on?
We're moving on. Yes.
The people that shit talk San Francisco constantly, Have they been to San Francisco?
Guaranteed.
Do they ever visit San Francisco?
No. I have a story.
That's what gets me, man.
I have a story I'll tell you off air. I don't want to bash this person publicly, but yes, that is California is a punching bag for people across the country.
My family lives in San Diego. It's very nice when I go out there. I enjoy going to San Diego and visiting.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know.
It's a sanctuary city, Gabe. It's a sanctuary city. Oh, Gavin Newsom over there doing it.
I swear, but it's like, have you visited?
Yeah.
You see these social media videos more often than not. And like you just read stories. You haven't actually visited. And then
have you been to San Francisco?
Shit on it incessantly. But either way, one team we cannot shit on as we get into the new year is Tiger basketball.
Let's go, man.
10-3 in the out of conference schedule, and they capped it off by getting themselves into the AP top 25 at number 21. And I want to get to more of that in a second, Kenny, because I think there's a real conversation to be had about AP voters and the way they have treated Memphis so far. They've been in and out for the last 3 weeks. Last 3 weeks, they've gone in and out of the AP top 25.
Yeah, your tweet was fire. Your tweet was fire after the Ole Miss game, by the way.
But 87-70 win at home over Ole Miss after a game that they got sort of trounced by Mississippi State. I just want to start here because I think this is one of the most important things. We'll talk about Musa Cisse in a second. This team's ability to rebound and recapture sort of the feeling game to game is damn impressive. Never too high, never too low. They can win a game, come back and respond. They can lose a game, come back and respond. I just see a different resiliency from this team that Penny Hardaway has. And I want to tell you why I think that is the case. Because you hear him talk on Field of 68. You hear him talk on Jason and John a couple of weeks ago. I think he really has gone out of his way, especially with this class and probably classes to come. He has gone out of his way to find guys with higher character, to find guys that sort of play that way, to find guys that won't bitch about playing time, to find guys that won't complain if their number's not called game to game. And you just see this ability for this team in particular to have a bad performance like they did against Mississippi State, come back a week later and trounce a team that was even higher ranked than Mississippi State was at the time. So I think that is a function of the way Penny Hardaway has decided to recruit from now on. And I think it's showing up in a big way.
I'll say this, man. Penny's playing a masterclass with the media this year too. And I'll say this because I was concerned, honestly, Gabe, after the Mississippi State game, when he came out in the post-game press conference and said the players were soft. And it concerned me. Because we've heard Penny do this before in the past where he's used the media to like get messages to his players. And I was like, please.
It hasn't always gone over well, has it?
We don't need to do that, right? Like Penny, you don't have to do that. Like you can support your guys publicly while getting after them privately. Like that would be as somebody who's covered this team for a while and seen some of the way that his other past teams have responded to those kinds of things. I go, oh man, please don't let that become a part of the narrative of this year. One of the things he said in that post-game press conference against Mississippi State was, I promise you they will be better next game. I promise you. And that caught my ear and I was like, what is he seeing here? Like, what is he seeing? And after the Ole Miss game, it all made sense to me because it was clear to me that the guys, Moussa, Tyrese, PJ, Colby, all those guys took being called soft by Mississippi State personally, and it pissed them off, and their response was as encouraging probably to Penny privately, which is why he felt comfortable coming out and saying, yes, we were soft.
But going back to what I was saying, like Penny has not had that type of trust game to game with teams he's had in the past.
Never.
Maybe 2022 with Kendrick Davis and DeAndre Williams because they could get everybody to follow them.
Right.
But like all these other years, he's had to call them out to try to get a rise out of them. You definitely saw that with last year's team.
100%.
This team doesn't have that. Like the confidence he has because of the character these guys seem to have behind
Yeah.
the scenes, I
Yeah.
think it's just different than years past for him. And one thing that he said on Jason and John a couple of weeks ago that did kind of like partly rub me the wrong way, but partly I was like, thank God he finally learned that lesson. He said he finally put out like 2 or 3 calls to each of these guys, like former coaches, and it did the groundwork to see what type of character these guys were going to bring to his program. The reason it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, it's like, dude, you've had 6 years to do that. That's what you're supposed to do. Like, if you're going to hire someone at, I don't know, whatever your business is, and they give you their references, what do? You call those references. You don't just leave the reference page to itself, pull it off, throw it in the trash. You call those people, because what happens if you call one of the top references that they've listed? They're like, yeah, he's a piece of shit. I wouldn't hire him if he was the last person on earth. You don't want to get into a situation like that. 100%. I'm glad he learned that lesson, but it feels like that lesson took a while to get through, But I feel what he's saying when he says that to be true.
Which is why it is hilarious to me the reactions that people have about Penny Hardaway as the head coach of Memphis, because it's like nowhere else in any other program, any other city could a coach like Penny Hardaway take 6 years to learn that and still be like, bro, you're in complete control of this team. You are not on the hot seat. You're fine. He's able to do that and learn all that because he's in Memphis, and because he's number one. He's Memphis's favorite son, and Memphis is a city that allows for people to make mistakes and have patience with them and learn and grow and get better.
Yeah. If you're at Kentucky, if you're at one of those bigger time programs, they'd be like, you just learned that shit in year 7 or whatever it is. Like, this is ridiculous. You better get to the Sweet 16 this year after saying that, or it's over with. Now, that game itself, 87-70 over Ole Miss, I thought they played phenomenally, and they dominated that game from start to finish. They were 47.5% from the field, 37% or so from 3. That 3-point ball really is falling, even though that was one of my big questions coming into the year. Colby Rogers led them with scoring at 28, 10 for 16, and 6 for 9 from 3 in 34 minutes. The guy is an absolute flamethrower when you give him an opportunity. But I really have to point to one guy, because he said it. It was a revenge game of sorts for him. Musa Cisse, man, 13 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks, only 2 fouls, by the way.
Loved it.
In 20 minutes, he made the biggest impact on the floor when it came to Saturday. And it earned him the player of the week in the American Athletic Conference. So shout out to Musa Cisse. I thought that was a very, very good, as you have termed it, clapback game at Ole Miss, at Chris Beard, and at that whole program in general.
Well, the funny part is I didn't term it a clapback game. Musa Cisse termed it a clapback game. That's his statement that he gave. He said to us, he said to me before the game and after the game, he said, this was my clapback game. He told me after the game, clapbacks don't have a time frame, bro. I was like, oh. because like let's not forget, he came into his time at Ole Miss and was injured and didn't get a chance to really get his footing there. And because he was injured, because he didn't get a chance to really get his footing there, they basically said, hit the road, Jack, like get out of here, basically. And I know Chris Beard liked to say that it was his decision to leave. I don't know if that was necessarily true. I do think that Moussa didn't feel comfortable there. And I think he was ready to get home. He talked about it in the post-game press conference. He said, Memphis is my home, man. I was just coming home. And even prior to the game, Gabe, the level of intensity and locked inness on his face was very apparent. And it was very clear, man, he was trying to make a statement in this game, and he very clearly did.
Yeah. The Chris Beard comments about like business decision. That's why Musa Cisse left.
Dog.
No, that's not what happened. You didn't give him an opportunity, and you weren't going to pay him because he was hurt. It's like, it doesn't seem all that complicated for him to. It felt like Chris Beard at the podium was spinning a lot of
Dude, he was salty as hell, bro. Salty.
He was really trying to go full spin zone with everything that was going to be asked him. He did that with Musa. And then he also said that was the best game that Memphis has played all year. With respect, no, it isn't.
No, it wasn't.
They've shot 50% from 3 and kept their turnovers under 10 multiple times this year. I'd say the UConn game where they responded in Maui, went to overtime, still won, goes up there. The Clemson game where they're on the road, go to overtime, still respond and win by 5. Those are the games I would point to. Ole Miss, where do you rank that as far as performances? Probably what, 4 or 5?
4 or 5 probably. I mean, they beat their ass, but it wasn't like they didn't just like drastically play this out of mind game, which is kind of what he was insinuating. Yes. Like the Memphis was emotionally.
They won't play that well again. Sort of the idea. Oh, that's the best game they'll play all year. Come on.
It felt like how we and this is why I think it rubbed me the wrong way, because it felt like the way we described games like Memphis versus Tulane, when they start putting out like, it's a t-shirt game, fill up the bowl, come and do this.
Yeah.
It's the Super Bowl. The way he was insinuating it was like this was Memphis's Super Bowl, and they came out and
it meant something, but it also means something to Ole Miss, man. I looked at the stats, and if you were watching the damn telecast, you know this to be true. You can't play this as Super Bowl because Ole Miss, when they come to Memphis, they know they don't win very often, so they want to go win. They're 100%. Now 22. Memphis is 22-3 at home all time against Ole Miss.
Come on, man.
I mean, like, it's just ridiculous to me that he was sort of playing that card, but he was playing a bunch of cards to try to insulate himself. It was very bizarre from Chris Beard in the postgame.
And I'll say this, being on the floor, I was on the floor on the Ole Miss side. He is the most disengaged head coach I've ever seen on a sideline. Disengaged.
Really, just like things going bad.
Just set the entire time.
Quiet.
And was just like this. Like his assistants next to him were going crazy. And like, there was like 1 or 2 times where he got up and said, I was like, I mean, other media members were like taking pictures of him going, we've never seen a head coach like this. Why is he so disengaged? It was weird. It was weird.
Yeah. Now back to Moussa really quick, because I want to give a big shout out to the front court in general.
Yeah, man.
Moussa, I thought that was probably his best game I've ever seen him in a Memphis uniform.
100%.
I didn't watch every game at Oklahoma State and Ole Miss, so I can't really speak to those. But he did win, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, so he probably had some good games there. But from an offensive perspective, like, obviously I want him to catch the ball a whole lot better. I still think his hands are made of brick at times.
They are.
But he has had at least a decent impact on that end of the floor as opposed to what he has been throughout the rest of his career. But also on top of that, Dane Danger has been phenomenal. Off the bench, he's just, you get late to a shot clock, throw it down to him, see what he can do. He's cerebral, but also plays really fast from there, even though he's a big, wider bodied guy. I still think they're thin there, but they know that, it seems like. I don't know if you sort of get this feeling. It feels like they know that they're thin, so they play hard and they really try to make some things happen, make positive impacts on the game. Dane Danger and Musa Cisse, because they know they're relied upon in that fashion.
Well, you
can sort of measure the overall success of this team by how did those guys play? Did they stay out of foul trouble? Were they at least able to stay on the floor? If they're able to do that more often than not, Tigers will win the game.
Let's look at the stats from the previous game. Let's look at the Mississippi State game. They had, I think, the starting front court with Musa and Nick. I don't have the box score in front of me. I think they had like
6 points, 10 rebounds combined. They were 1 for 6 from the field because Musa didn't even take a shot.
Right. Tonight or Saturday night against Ole Miss, they had between the starting front court between Nick and Musa had 21 points, 19 rebounds, and 6 assists.
And this is not
three total fouls.
And obviously, I'm not saying that this team runs through the front court because that's the furthest thing from the truth. Everything runs through the backcourt and the guards. If they're scoring at a high level, they can win any game they're in. But in those high level, top 25 caliber, tournament caliber matchups, those guys give you something. You're going to win that game. It just feels like they're a really good alternative when things may not be falling. Because we saw, the other day against Ole Miss, sure, PJ Haggerty had a decent game, and we know Colby Rogers lit it up. Tyrese Hunter was bad. That was his worst game in a Tiger uniform, quite frankly.
Well,
so
offensively, it was not a great game.
Defensively, he was good, yes, but I'm talking about offensively. And
Yes.
you need someone to sort of pick that up, and you get 13 from Musa, you get 16 from Dan, you get 8 from Nick. I just feel like they're a nice supplemental piece in those big-time matchups.
Yeah, no doubt. Like you're 1,000% right. The team's success travels through the backcourt. When Colby, when Tyrese, when PJ, when they are on, they are very tough to beat. But we talk about it in football all the time. Let's go to the football guy for a second. We talk about balance, right? Like between what's the phrase they use when offense and defense are working complementary football. In this, you need complementary basketball between the backcourt and the front court, right? Like you do need that. You do need something from the front court because it keeps defenses honest.
Yes.
And so I think that's where when you do have multiple games in a row where Nick and Moussa aren't producing and it's only on Dane, the problem is not only were they not producing in those games, they were fouling a lot in those games. And so it just hamstrings the team. When you have low fouls and some productivity from the starting front court, it just keeps the defenses honest. And it allows Colby Rogers to have a game like he had, PJ to have a game like he had, and Tyrese, even though he didn't fill up the points side of the box score, impacted the game, impacted winning in a good way.
The thing that you say that I really latch onto there is just keeping them honest, keeping another team honest. That's what this front court needs to do consistently. And they gave you more than that against Ole Miss, obviously. 13 from Musa, 16 from Dane. Dane was 6 for 7 from the field, very efficient.
4 of 7 from the free throw
line. They have
line.
The ability to do more than keep a team honest. They can really kill you and beat you like they did against Ole Miss. But if they are able to just keep teams honest, they will win a lot more games down the stretch. Now, as we head into the new year and into conference play, Tigers in the AP poll, number 21. This is their third time in, having to climb back into the AP poll, despite having the most impressive resume of wins in the country, quite frankly. Now, I understand there's an Arkansas State loss and a nasty loss to Mississippi State, and the Auburn loss doesn't look good, even though Auburn's top 5 team. Whatever. They got killed. I get it. But they're 10-3. They're 8-2 in quads 1 and 2. The idea I can't shake about them having to earn their spot in the AP poll every single week is it feels like Penny Hardaway's reputation is following him. It's not about the set of circumstances this season, because if it was about the set of circumstances this season, they'd probably be a top 15 team and they would have stayed there for a couple of weeks. But there's no reason this particular team, with the resume they put together, should be in and out this much. I want to give you a couple examples because this will sort of tie everything together as to why I think it's kind of ridiculous they've had to earn it so much with the AP voters. The team they just beat was number 16.
Dude,
they're 2-1. 2-1 Ole Miss is in quads 1 and 2. 2-1. Did you realize I said Memphis was 8-2 in quads 1 and 2? Ole Miss is 2-1. They've played 3. So there's that. UConn. Let's go to UConn. They lost 3 straight. Tell me how many weeks they've been outside of the AP top 25 poll.
1, right? 1.
0. They have.
Oh, they were 25. They went to 25.
They have yet to leave the AP top 25 poll.
Now, after they lost 3 straight games in Maui. After they lost 3 straight
games. That is also reputation. That's okay. We've won back-to-back national championship. Let's give them benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to drop Danny Hurley team out of the AP top 25, but I need a little bit of consistency here. Now, here's my real sticking point, because I think this is the most important thing. Gonzaga and Purdue. Gonzaga's number 19, Purdue's number 20. They're the teams right ahead of Memphis. As I said, Memphis has 3 losses. They're 8-2 in quads 1 and 2. Gonzaga and Purdue both have 4 losses, so more losses than Memphis. And they have a combined record, or at least wins. They have combined 7 wins in quad 1 and 2. Memphis has 8. And Memphis has less losses. Yet Memphis is ranked behind them in the AP poll. Purdue number 20, Gonzaga number 19. So, I just need some consistency here. Now, granted, I'll say this. AP poll doesn't make a damn by the end of the year. It's more for, a little bit of pride for a fan base, feel like you're doing something, have that little number next to your name. It just feels nice.
It's for the networks. It's for the networks mainly.
I think what it does show, though, if we're going big picture, is there's still just this, and it could be fair. There's a national perception of Penny Hardaway and this program that is going to be so hard to shake no matter how much good things you do, no matter how many good wins you have on your resume. It's going to be really tough to shake the reputation that's been built over the 6 years of Penny Hardaway with the national voters and the national media. It's always going to be that way until something, until you have a sustained level of success within this program.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. And here's the problem. Here's the issue that I have with what you're saying is 1000% correct. The problem that I have with it is that we as fans and people that watch, what that tells me is we've got to stop putting so much weight into it because it's not going to change. It's just not going to change. Like the national perception, whatever, the writers, whoever's voting on this, it's not going to change. Like it won't, there's nothing that can happen because it unless it's just a sustained 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what has to happen. Obviously.
That's what has to happen. But here's the problem.
But right now,
we've got to just stop putting so much weight into it because honestly, number one, it doesn't matter to the seating. If you listen to Penny Hardaway talk, the only thing he cares about is the NCAA tournament seeding. That's all he cares about. It's why he scheduled the non-conference that he did. It's why he has done the things that he's done. He only cares about the seeding.
Sure.
And the AP top 25 has zero impact on the seeding.
There's probably some in the committee room. There's probably some reference of it. Oh, they had this many weeks in the AP poll, but more than anything, it's going to be offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, Ken Pom, Bart Torvik, net, all that type of thing. So,
that's it.
And even the net to me, how I've always felt about it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah. Like when you just go look at the way teams are ranked and their quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities, it just doesn't quite match up.
I agree
with what you think would be the case. And I understand the Arkansas State loss really did a number on this Tigers team and the perception. It's like when it happened, you probably had some people in the fan base still going like, oh, here we go again.
Oh, of course.
Even though I don't believe that to be true. No. I don't blame people for feeling that way because they have some reasons to feel that way. They've seen teams disintegrate into dust like the team last year. But still, I look at this body of work and I know what AP voters are told to do every week. For the most part, you're supposed to wipe it all clean, rank the top 25 teams in the country. You just can't sell to me that this team has not been a top 25 team just about every week that they've rolled out there.
Yeah.
For them to drop out after losses in November, a loss or a couple of losses in November and December when other teams have lost 3 straight and other teams haven't had quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities or beaten any quad 1 teams. It's just, it doesn't have the level of consistency that it should. And I think it just continues to perpetuate that national narrative that's always been around.
So you were talking about kind of last year, the disintegration of the team after the non-conference schedule was over. They ended the non-conference schedule last year at 11-2. This year, we are now officially done with the non-conference schedule. Those 14 games, non-conference games, or 13 games, non-conference games. Last year, they were 11-2. We know what happened last year. Sure. This year, they're 10-3, Gabe.
Yep.
What's to say that the disintegration isn't on the way?
So 2 things that lead me to believe that's not going to happen. Again, anything can happen. Injury, I don't want to talk about it, but injuries, things can happen outside of your control. We saw the Caleb Mills thing. When Caleb Mills went down, that team was not the same. So I'm just going to throw that out there. But there's 2 things that lead me to believe this team can keep up this level of success. 1, you looked at the conference lately?
Yeah.
The last year, don't get it twisted, conference was terrible. This year, though, we have taken terrible to it. It is as bad as I have ever seen it. 100%. It is horrible. The preseason top team to win the AAC is 224th. Ken Palm right now, or in the net. I think in the net.
Yeah, dude.
So that's UAB, of course. I don't really buy into this. Obviously, you have FAU and Wichita State and a few teams there that you could trip up on when you go deal
North
with a road
Texas
test. Yeah, but like in the end of the day, this conference is outside of Memphis just lost. If they did not have Memphis, they would just be completely out in the wilderness basketball wise, because there's just no other team that gives you any type of redeeming quality. And I have said this, I think it'll be a one-bid league unless Memphis loses the conference tournament. Memphis is the only team in this conference, in my opinion.
Right.
And I think in most people's opinion, you go to bracketologists, talk to them. Memphis is the only team that can get an at-large bid because they scheduled well and they won those games. Yeah. The other teams they don't have a chance at it. The other part of it, Kenny, and this is pretty obvious, I think they're winning in sustainable ways. Last year, especially in the out of conference, you had to get some big time performances from David Jones, 40-point, 30-point performances. Javon Quinterly had to go off in some games. You had to do that. You have guys on this team where you're a little more multiple on the offensive end, but even more so than that, it's the defense. It's the defense. Their adjusted defensive number, according to Ken Palm, is like 49th efficiency, the 49th best efficiency in the country on the defensive end. Last year at this time, they were somewhere around 100th, if not even lower than that. This team cares. They buy in on defense. And I think for that reason, they're just going to be able to handle adversity a lot better than the team did last year. Because when the going got rough offensively for that team last year, Christians talk about this on multiple occasions. Yep. If offensively the shots weren't falling, you saw it on defense. The effort slowed down. They stopped caring as much. You see this team, shots aren't falling, defense picks up. So Yep. I just think it's a different mindset completely than last year's team. And for that reason, I think they can keep this type of pace up even as they get into conference.
Can I give you another reason?
Of course.
Because I agree with everything you just said. I completely agree with you. I think another reason that we can say that this will not be a situation like last year where you come out of the non-conference, highly successful non-conference, and lay an egg in the conference run is because of Penny Hardaway. I think that Penny Hardaway has grown infinitely as a coach. And and when I say that, I say it as not in his basketball knowledge, not in his ability to coach a game, not in his I think he's always been a basketball savant. He always I think knows more basketball than most people, than most people will ever even begin to understand. Penny is a different coach this year. He is more comfortable in his skin as a coach. He has made really, really strong decisions, whether it be who he brings in, kind of like what we discussed at the beginning of the show with, the phone calls that he's made, who he's recruited, the high character kids that he's recruited. But let's not forget, before the season started, 2 months before the season started, a month, he fired his coaching staff.
Yep.
He took a role player after giving him multiple chances to get back and get right with the team, told him to go away. I don't care what anybody says online about how that went down. Penny Hardaway made the decision for Tyreek Smith to not be on this team anymore. That is different.
Yes.
Than the previous
If I'm
years.
reading through what you're saying, and I'm glad you said all the words you did, so I'm not trying to shame you in any way, shape, or form, but I think that's almost the long way of saying he's better at dealing with bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then maybe it's not better at dealing with bullshit. He just cuts the bullshit out. He gets rid of it before he
put up with it.
With it.
He doesn't put up with it anymore.
Right.
And that is where he's not going to say it like that. And maybe I was a little bit more political in how I said it.
Yeah.
But Gabe, yes, you are 1,000% correct. Penny Hardaway is more comfortable in his skin in cutting bullshit off than putting up with it that he has in his previous years. And so I think that is, on top of all the other things you said, is one of the main reasons that we are going to see a different team, because Penny Hardaway is a different coach.
Yep. 100%. 100%. Now we have anything else, or should we go ahead and move on?
Let's go, man.
All right, let's grab this break. We'll come back with a hot 3 on the other side.
I'm not quite sure why anyone expects to get straight answers from Taylor Jenkins. Michelin star level word salad served at every single press conference. He is nothing, all words, no substance, ever. Like, and it's you do this on purpose. Like, he's a smart man. He went to Penn. Like, he graduated the Wharton School of Business. He is a smart man. He can articulate his thoughts, and he articulates it perfectly so where nobody has any idea what he's talking about. It is so frustrating.
Man, you're the first person I think that has pointed out his education and how that really does lend itself to how he talks. I mean, like, the dude is a professional at making sure
he talks like a calculator. He's like,
Tune in to The Daily Grind with your host, Loot Hatmaker, every Monday through Friday at 7:30 a.m. live on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Some of y'all done lost y'all goddamn mind when it comes down to G.G. Jackson, bro. A 6'9" athletic scoring machine guard. Did things that only Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Michael Jordans of the world had done as a rookie, right? We watched him doing this in real time last season. And there are people saying that this guy won't be a rotation player. There's no need to make him a rotation player. Let him play in the G League. You know, young players coming to the league and they're thrown into the fire, man. We've seen in this offense, Jalen Wells, who's a rookie, look good in this offense. Santi Aldama, who struggled a lot last year, looks good in this offense. Jake LaRavia looks good in this offense. What the hell do y'all think G.G. Jackson is going to look like in this offense, man? A 6'8", 6'9", athletic 3-4 you can throw the ball to him above the rim. He can knock down shots. He can get to the basket on his own. It's just a bunch of nonsense conversation, bro.
Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Oh, we back
With the hot 3.
Yep.
You ready?
Yep.
What do you think? Do you think Taylor Jenkins sounds like a calculator when he talks?
Yeah, I think he does, brother. He really does. I think that was a good way of putting it.
He's so smart. He's really good at making everybody else not know what the hell he's talking about.
Yes, correct.
And we'll get to that. We got a lot to talk about with the Grizzlies in this hot 3, but man, we got some stuff we need to discuss because there's been some pretty crazy stories. You're going to have to remind me, Miami played in which bowl this year? Because none of them matter outside of the college football playoffs, right?
Pop-Tarts Bowl.
The Pop-Tarts
Number
Bowl.
13 Miami versus 18 Iowa State. Iowa State won by 1.
So there's been some drama coming out of that game, and that's that consensus top 3 quarterback in the draft this year, Cam Ward, played in the first half and then just vamped in the second
So
half.
he broke the all-time passing touchdown record in the NCAA with 136. Then he sat out the second half. That's where the drama's coming from. And one, I just want to start by saying he's playing in a bowl game that's big calling card is they have an edible fucking mascot. Like, in the end of the day, stop acting. Listen, we know bowls have been devalued. I don't like it for the bowl directors. I don't like it for the student athletes always. I don't like it for the health of the game. They still get watched, though.
Yeah.
But let's stop acting like these bowl games mean what they did in the past. It's getting to be old as hell. Yeah. And for Cam Ward to go in there, break a record that means something to him and those around him, and to sit out is completely fine with me.
So, okay.
He did enough work in that first half to potentially hang on to a lead. Then he wanted his team to handle the rest of the way. That's fine to me. It's unbelievable that people are getting, their shit disturbed by this. This is, at least he played. He suited up. There's other quarterbacks in the past haven't even bothered to suit up. Yeah. Like I know Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, they come with a little bit of baggage with people around the country because they don't like Colorado. At least they suited up as well, even though they got their ass kicked by BYU. I give Cam Ward credit for even suiting up in that game. He didn't need to. Yeah. He wanted to break the record and get out. And it's kind of funny to me because everybody's like, well, that was a selfish move. He wanted to break the record, stand on his teammates' shoulders, let them break the record for him. Then he didn't want to help them win the game. Well, one, the Pop-Tarts Bowl doesn't matter. But two, have you seen like the Josh Allen thing that's going around for next week? He's got one more game left in the year against the New England Patriots. It means something to him that he's got a consecutive start sort of record or streak going. He's going to start the game. He's going to start the game, and they're going to pull him out immediately. Of course. They're going to give him one drive and pull him out immediately. So you see this at the NFL level at the end of the year when things don't matter as much. So it's bothersome to me that this has taken the turn that it has. I am fine with what Cam Ward did. I do think his coach, Mario Cristobal, could have helped him out a whole lot more at the podium after the game. Because 100%. When they asked him about, was this the plan? He said, I like to keep private conversations private. Well, but why don't you just make that public to let the media stop talking about it in this negative light? Like, let them know that it was the plan to let him play the first half, break the record, and get out. Because I know that's what you talked about behind the scenes. I know that's the conversation you had. Say that so they don't have to speculate on Cam Ward and how much he wants to play the game and how bad of or good of a teammate he is. Mario Cristobal kind of screwed him in this.
Don't you think that's a massive part of what a coach's job is to protect players from those kinds of conversations? Yes. Especially your guys who have suited up for you, who have put their bodies on the line week after week, day after day after day, week after week, have put their bodies on the line with your jersey on. It's your job to protect them like that, right? Yeah. Like to come out and go. I think that's one of the things I love about Deion so much is Deion is a ride or die coach with his guys. Like he is going to go to war for Travis Hunter. You know what I'm saying? Like, so let me ask you. So you were saying this. People have to realize you're not just talking about this from a media perspective. You are a player, right? Like you wore the helmet. You put the pads on. You blocked for quarterbacks in the past. Like this is what you've done. You're coming at this from a perspective as a former player as well. Does it bother you when people who have never played the game or who have never played the game at the level in which you've played it give like, this is what players are feeling in the locker room?
People that talk about locker rooms that have never been in a locker room before. Yeah, that pisses me off. Yeah, I bet there's some people in the Miami locker room that are a little bit frustrated, but those people aren't playing in the NFL. Those people don't have the future that Cam Ward has.
Right.
Like, if that happened to me, right, and I knew I didn't have an NFL future and I was playing for that last Pop-Tarts Bowl, I may be a little frustrated with Cam Ward, but in the end of the day, guess what? I understand it. It's a great business decision. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And honestly, I take some pride in the fact that he just broke the NCAA record for damn passing touchdowns.
And you were blocking for him.
Yes,
like, what are we talking about?
That means something to me.
Yeah.
Instead of beating Iowa State and getting to go eat the edible, Pop-Tart, the edible mascot after the game. Just leave that shit to the side. And here's one of my favorite conversations that happens every year, and you have to remind the older folks that it's the stupidest conversation ever. Oh, well, NFL scouts are going to look at this. They're going to ask some questions about it. No, they're not. That you have 4 or 5 years worth of film at Incarnate Word, Washington State, Miami. Washington State was able to have more success than they've had since Gardner Minshew on the offensive side of the ball with Cam Ward. Miami was able to break through and be a college football playoff contender for the first time and win 10 games and have a chance to win the ACC. Incarnate Word was phenomenal when he was there at the FCS level. This was a 0-star recruit.
Yeah.
The guy's a damn good story.
Yeah.
He plays football unbelievably. He's a really good communicator for the most part. He seems to understand how to get the ball out on time accurately. He can air the ball out downfield. They're going to talk about his skill set, what he's brought to the table over 5 years of college football, and what he can bring to their organization. They're not going to talk about one Pop-Tarts Bowl where he sat out the second half against Iowa damn State. They don't care about that. That is so old school. That's an old school way of thinking. It has no bearing on reality.
Yeah.
And I just have to remind folks that scouts don't give a damn. They may ask him a question about it, but they don't really care.
Yeah.
Are you good enough to play and be my franchise quarterback is the answer that they want. And based on what he has done through 5 years of college football, he has resoundingly answered that question, yes.
I've had the privilege and honor in my life of working with a lot of high school students in many different capacities. But one of the conversations I have with my high school students back in the day a lot was, when you're in high school, do you know what year really, really matters for your pursuit of higher education? Your junior year of high school.
Yep.
Do you know that most colleges don't pay any attention to your senior year?
You usually get your offers from junior to senior year.
You get your offers between that summertime, between junior and senior year. So most of the time, you've already made your plans. You've been accepted to your college. You're going somewhere. You could literally not go to class your senior year of high school, and it has zero impact on your ability to go and go to school at this college that you want to go to, that you've already been accepted to. That is the entirety of, like, let's put it into perspective for Cam Ward here. Like, NFL scouts are not going to go, well, we were going to draft you as our franchise quarterback.
But that damn Pop-Tarts Bowl.
You didn't play the second half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, man.
We wanted to see your coach get that Pop-Tart shower. What's your problem?
How dare you not let Mario Cristobal eat one of those? Come on.
It's nonsense, man. It's nonsense.
The
things that we used to care about from like a quote unquote character perspective, they are a thing of the past. Leave them in the past. They're nonsense. And you know what else was in the past too with quarterbacks that look like Cam Ward? The black quarterback tropes. We've left those in the past. So leave this nonsense in the past too.
Right.
I mean, we grow and we evolve and we change for a reason. Let that be the case here.
I just want to throw this as I don't want to bring up this guy's past because he's past it. He's a celebrated quote machine in the NFL right now. Jameis Winston, people love him. He's asking God to take his pick sixes away, that kind of stuff. But let's not forget, man, Jameis Winston came out of Florida State stealing crabs from
crab legs. Mr. Crab Legs.
Having some allegations about.
You remember the Effer right in the P situation where he stood on the table in the whatever university center they have at FSU and said Effer right in the P?
Yeah. He did a lot. He was asked about those things. Guess where he was drafted?
Number one.
Ain't nobody care about Cam Ward not playing in the second half of a Pop-Tarts Bowl, bro.
I can tell you, I, for one, some people may, I, for one, don't give a shit. And I can tell you scouts don't give a shit. NFL teams don't care.
All right, brother, let's get to topic number 2. Sam, mother effing Darnold, bro. The highlight of the year, and I'm going to let you just go off here, but Minnesota's in a quandary, man. Like, what are they going
to do? A relatively good one.
A great one. A great problem to have. But what are they going to do? Because the highlight of the NFL season for me has been these quarterbacks that I saw in college that had great college careers, that were drafted highly, that were thought of highly, being drafted to a poverty franchise, not being allowed to develop and grow, being sent off, and they're having resurgent careers. We're seeing it with Baker. We're seeing it with Sam Darnold. We're seeing it with
Geno Smith.
Geno Smith is a great example. We're seeing it across the board for a lot of these guys, and Sam Darnold is by far the most impressive of them all. He has now led Minnesota to a 14-2 record this year.
Yes.
He has go through his stats real quick.
Third in the NFL in passing yards, 4,153. Fourth in touchdown passes with 35. He's got 12 at INT, so a 35-12 TD to INT ratio.
So crazy.
He's 13th in QBR. He, in that game against a really good Green Bay team that's been surging the back half of the year, 33 for 43, 377, 3 touchdowns.
Dude.
The guy has been phenomenal. And this is a reason that no one ever wanted to give up on Sam Darnold. No one ever did.
Right.
Like everyone knew there was something there. You just had to get him in the right situation. You get him there with Kevin O'Connell, who's going to give you some of those zone concepts, let you get into play action concepts, dumb it down for you, then start to give you a little bit more to chew on as the season goes along. You've seen Sam Darnold handle every step of the Kevin O'Connell experience with grace. He's had some tough games. He had some tough games at the sort of middle part of the season, early middle part of the season, but he was able to bounce back and make some things happen. And they're 14-2. They're fighting the damn Lions for the NFC North crown next week.
And
this is crazy. This is insane.
Where is Sam Darnold in MVP conversation?
Oh, gosh. I mean, it's Lamar. I'm going to be honest. It's Lamar or Josh Allen.
Right.
I think he could be. He's probably going to be top 5 in voting, though.
I would say so, but even that is a massive success.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's
the fact that the fact that we're having the conversation about him like that.
Well, here's the conversation that also needs to have. We need to have. It's all about situation with quarterbacks. Always has been.
100%.
You brought up, who are the two names you brought up off the top? You brought up Sam Darnold. Who was the other name?
Baker Mayfield.
3 years ago, you know where they both were?
Weren't
in a Carolina Panthers uniform.
Blue and teal. Like
both of them in a Carolina Panthers uniform playing for Matt Rule.
Wow.
Neither of them did shit in a damn Panthers uniform.
Wow.
But they get to their respective spot. You have Dave Canales taking over, obviously with the Panthers now, but he was the OC for Baker Mayfield. He had a resurgent year last year. You have Kevin O'Connell taking over and handling Sam Darnold and his upward trajectory as a pro quarterback. And you see the fruits, you see what's happening there. Right. So, like, it's all about situation. Now, important question.
What do they do?
Vikings drafted J.J. McCarthy in the first round of last year's draft.
And let's be
waiting for him to get done with his knee injury or try to rehab his knee injury and everything else. What do? You don't just let Sam Darnold walk. You can't do that. I mean, I guess we'll wait to see playoffs and how he fares there because that's how quarterbacks are judged in the National Football League.
Before we
playing at playoff time. But you can't just turn the page after a guy has a year like this. And he's still young.
Yeah. You were talking before we were having a conversation about this before we started recording. With his stats and all the things that he's done this year, there was kind of a projection, evaluation of Sam Darnold's, what he should potentially earn in a contract. What were the numbers you put out there?
Okay, so we have to, this was Spot Track.
Okay.
And they're pulling like the small sample size because it's been a full year. Right. And they have 14 wins with the Minnesota Vikings. And you have to pull the mid-range tier because that's not who Sam Darnold is this year. He's a high-caliber starting quarterback in the NFL. That's what the stats say. So with the stats that he has, SpotTrack says that a veteran quarterback who has those type of stats commands normally 4 years, $229 million on his next contract. That's $57.3 million per year, which would not put him at the tip top of the NFL quarterback market, but it'd be pretty close to the top. There's other guys making 62 and a half a year, that type of thing. He would be making right below those guys. I think he'd be a top 5 paid quarterback in the NFL.
But they drafted J.J. McCarthy to be their quarterback of the future.
And get this, Daniel Jones, they're trying a little reclamation project with him in Minnesota. So they have what looks like going into the year, like this damn quarterback room is complete garbage. They have what looks like a damn good situation now. I want to give most of the credit to Kevin O'Connell, but obviously the quarterbacks in that room, especially Sam Darnold, had to latch themselves on and understand what was expected of them, and he's done that in a pretty big way. I think the best thing for them going forward, because they paid him $10 million this year, best thing for them probably a franchise tag for a year, see what he does next year, then deal with what you need to deal with. If he has another good year on a franchise tag, you can ship off J.J. McCarthy to a quarterback-needy team, get a nice return on it, and build around Sam Darnold. But this was supposed to be a retooling year for the Minnesota Vikings, and they're sitting there at 14-2 and could potentially be the 1 seed in the NFC with a bye. I mean, it couldn't have turned out any better post Kirk Cousins for the Minnesota Vikings than it has.
But that's not what they're saying in their social media. They're coming out and saying Sam Darnold is our quarterback. He's our guy. So my question to you is, go ahead.
That number I gave you, 4 years, 229, 57.3 million a year. After the 1 year of success, can you reasonably pay that? Like if you were in the shoes of their GM, would you pay him 57 million a year after this 1 year in Kevin O'Connell's system? Or would you tag him and then see if I want to pay him that amount of money, which it may go up after another year of success?
I guess my question would be, do they believe there's something different about Sam Darnold, or do they believe that it's Kevin O'Connell's system? Because if Sam Darnold can be good in this, do they believe that JJ McCarthy can be good in this system?
Fair. That's fair. And then you'd have 4 years worth of runway on a cheap contract, rookie contract. But Sam Darnold has proven it.
So I guess that's my question to you then is, what does Sam Darnold need to do this postseason to make it to where it's like he is our guy and we move off JJ?
You win a playoff game or two? Oh my God.
Right?
I mean, why not? But I do want to also make it very clear. Sam Darnold's been phenomenal. That whole team has been really good. That defense run by Brian Flores has been phenomenal. And then that offensive line, I don't know about if you knew this. This is me being an O-line nerd. They lost a guy who I think's an all-pro caliber left tackle in Christian Darrisaw. Made a trade to go get Cam Robinson from the Jaguars. He immediately stepped in, and he's been like a top 5 grade in PFF every single week since he's joined the Vikings. So they're well coached, clearly. They have a lot of guys that have bought into their system. And they're just playing at a very high level across the board, and that includes Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I think, wouldn't Sam Darnold – okay, I'm going to make a comparison even though it's not the exact same thing. But Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy. Like, same sort of ballpark after the way things have gone this year? Because we've seen Brock Purdy get to a Super Bowl with a bunch of people surrounding him. And he had a little fall off this year when he was asked to do a whole lot more because he had all those injuries and he wasn't able to do it. And they're going to miss the playoffs. Sam Darnold takes this team that was sort of left on the back burner by most people that were talking about the NFL and raises them up, helps them win 14 games, potentially win a number 1 seed in the NFC. So like, where do you sort of put those two quarterbacks? How do you stack them up next to each other? I don't know. It's a really tough situation because we know quarterbacks are overvalued. They usually get paid more than they're actually worth. So we'll see how the Vikings handle this. I think the best way to go forward would probably be franchise tag, see what he can do for you next year. Then if he recreates what he did this year, next year, then you give him a long-term contract and deal with JJ McCarthy as you need to. But I can't say after 1 year I'd give him near $60 million a year.
I would suspect what the Minnesota moved off Kirk Cousins last year and drafted JJ McCarthy as the quarterback for their future. And it felt like even going into the season that JJ was going to be a starter for them this year. That Stan was going to be the backup, kind of a veteran backup that they didn't have to put a whole lot of emphasis on. I wonder if this is just kind of allowing their reaping the rewards of Sam Darnold's play, getting them alongside everybody else that's on the team, a 14-2, top seed in the NFC, opportunity to go and play deep into the playoffs. At the same time, being able to bring along JJ McCarthy in a more normal rookie way, right? Instead of throwing him directly into the fire, because we've seen more often than not
kind of the Packers route, except no Aaron Rodgers.
Kind of the Packers
experiences,
right? And hopefully,
but like you're allowing someone to learn and chill behind a serviceable player, a guy who's
playing outside of his mind.
Yes,
right. So I would suspect that the GMs, the front office, they trust their draft analysis of JJ McCarthy enough to go, we're not moving off of him because we really liked him a lot. So let's reap the rewards of what Sam Darnold is doing this year, sign him to a franchise tag, and then after a couple of years of on the sidelines, learning the system, getting into, healing up from his injury, becoming an NFL guy instead of a Michigan quarterback, let's bring JJ in and he's our guy. But I guess my question would be, we've seen that go sideways with a lot of veteran players. They hate the franchise, right? They want long-term. They want long-term security, bro.
It's different though with Sam Darnold, right? Sam Darnold's been chewed up and spit out by a couple of franchises at this point. You don't think, and obviously I'm not like speaking for him. He could think differently than me, but I would think that this is a guy who just wants to find a spot where he's comfortable and can have some success like he's having with the Vikings and stick for a couple of years. He has been chewed up and spit out by this league on multiple occasions. So yeah. I don't see why he wouldn't be more open to taking a franchise tag in this situation than, any other situation. He's had success. He probably realizes if he gets a franchise tag, it's an audition for a $50 million plus a year contract. Dude. So, I mean, there are worse things in the world. He's 27 years old. He's got plenty of runway to still be a good quarterback in this league. Yeah. I think he'd be more open to it than a normal guy taking the franchise tag. But I want to bring up a real quick stat before we move on to our final Hot 3 topic. Do you know that in 1 year with the Minnesota Vikings, Sam Darnold has more wins with 14 than he did in 3 years with the New York Jets? Only had 13 with the New York Jets in 3 years.
Insanity. I love it. I love the storyline, dude. I'm a big storyline guy.
Yeah.
I love the storyline of Sam Darnold.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. It is what makes sports so magical to me, is like guys like I hope that he's hired a production company to follow him around, or maybe the Minnesota is doing it. Like, I don't know, man. Just tell that story, because that is phenomenal. What a great story. But all right, let's get on to hot top, or what is it? Hot 3 topic number 3. I almost said hot topic. Remember hot topic?
I never shopped at Hot Topic, but
I did. I was in my goth days. You
had some emo days. That would have been hilarious. I'm imagining you and eyeshadow.
Yeah. All right. Oh God, can we not talk about this, please? I feel like we're back to last year. Let me just read this to you, bro. Grizzlies PR put out, we're back. So we were celebrating just like a few weeks ago, getting back to tweets from Grizzlies PR with the injury report being an actual tweet. We are back to the notes, the
notes app,
screenshot notes picture of it. This is the status report for the Memphis Grizzlies and the Phoenix Suns for December 31st, tonight's game. Questionable is Yuki Kawamura, left shoulder soreness, out. Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark, Zach Edey, Gigi Jackson, Jake LaRavia, John Morant, Marcus Smart, Vince Williams. Jesus Christ, Gabe.
And John Morant has hurt the same shoulder that he got repaired this offseason.
Yeah.
And he's out week to week is what they say. And I know that there's a lot of people that have grown frustrated with Grizz PR and the Grizzlies with their injury and medical updates, and people may not buy that. Probably worried about him, maybe a little more long-term because it's the same shoulder he injured.
I would say I've heard from some people that it's not as serious as people want it to. As people are thinking it is, but we obviously have a lost Gabe. Where is he? We had a whole conversation with we have a guy, y'all know, the $2 Sports Show, with our good friend Rusty Witten and Rusty Buckets and Uncle Buck bringing Gabe back. Sorry, you threw me, Gabe.
Golly, man, I don't know what's going on. I haven't
check your mic real quick for me.
No, I got it.
There you go. So we have Rusty Buckets, who's a co-host of the $2 Sports Show, is also a doctor of sports medicine. So he's been able to kind of like navigate through some of these injuries for us, and he described what that AC joint is and the problem that it is, and there's different grades, like kind of like an ankle injury with Vince Williams. He said last night he saw Josh shooting one-handed shots with his arm in a sling.
Grade 1 AC joint.
Yeah, and he said that's if it was a really bad injury, that he wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, once you get to grade 3, I think it's a full separation of the AC joint, which would be a separated shoulder.
Yeah.
So you don't want that. No. But you have some ligament damage with grade 1 and grade 2 that you can't play with. You know what I mean? Because you could definitely injure it further and then risk the full separation, and that would be season altering, potentially season ending, for John Morant, and that could come with another labrum tear if you separate that AC joint. So listen, I'm not a doctor. I think Rusty would back up what I'm saying though, in the fact that you don't want to play with it, and it's kind of nerve wracking as a Grizzlies fan watching them 22-11, second in the West, have to go through these issues. Now it beats the hell out of being 6-19 in the first 25 last year, getting John Morant back for a few games, seeing the game winner against the Pelicans, on national TV. Then he gets hurt and he's out for the rest of the year. You have a nice buffer. You feel good about where the team's at right now, as opposed to last year. But I think everybody's starting to think more to the future, starting to think about playoff basketball, starting to think about, okay, what can this team realistically accomplish? And if you have a damn notes app worth of a status report every single night down the stretch of the season, everybody's expectations start to shoot down the tubes. Yeah. And that's what you don't want to see. And
I don't think that's unfair.
It seems like most all of these injuries are relatively short term.
Yeah.
But we'll learn more as the weeks go along.
What is it like? I mean, have you ever seen anything like this in a 2-year span of just?
No, it's foolish. It's foolish, Kenny.
Meanwhile, probably to me the most important player on the Grizzlies is Jaren Jackson Jr. and he's played. The guy who was injured a lot his early part of his career is now. He's now the workhorse for the Grizzlies.
Shit, this was the guy. People forget about this. I think 3-4 years ago, this was a guy. Like, is he ever going to be on the floor for more than 10 games at a time? That's what we were saying about the guy, and now he's become just the consistent stalwart mainstay for this rotation every single night. So
what are your thoughts on that? Like, how are you feeling right now? I know we got the injury report. I know we got the terrible news that Dorian Finney-Smith is going to the Lakers and not the Grizzlies. How are you? Can we just tell people that I think Memphis, a lot of fans need to figure out, like, this team doesn't need a savior. Like, they don't need somebody to come in.
Dorian Finney-Smith would have been awesome to have. And the package they were offering, I thought, was a fair package.
Fair.
Of a protected first rounder, and then John Conchar, Luke Kennard, you can rebuild, do whatever. You give you a little draft capital. They wanted 3 first or second round picks and D'Angelo Russell instead. The Nets did. Can I be honest, though? All the people that are pissed off at Zach Kleiman for not getting a Dorian Finney-Smith trade done, are you telling me you would have offered them more for Dorian Finney-Smith?
For DFS?
You really want to give them more than a first-round pick, Luke Kennard and John Conchar for that? Like, what do you want to give up, Santi? You want to give up another draft pick for Dorian Finney-Smith? Like, who, by the way, is not going to be the 11 point per game, 45% from 3 scorer that he's been with the Nets, because the rotation here in Memphis is a lot different if you haven't figured out. They're a more competitive team.
And the Grizzlies don't even have 2 of their main wing and guard rotational players back.
I would have been hyped up if they got Dorian Finney-Smith. He's a great tie-together piece for everything. Unbelievable on defense, switchable from basically 1 through 4. Love that about him. He's been shooting the 3 ball really well, although it's kind of a peak year for him at 45%. Right, so you don't know how long that's going to hold.
Yeah,
it's held through the first part of the season, though. But at the end of the day, like, I looked at the package that they put together, and I'm like, if I was in Zach Kleiman's shoes, would I have given more than John Conchar, Luke Kennard, and a protected first-round pick? No.
Absolutely
Dorian
not.
Finney-Smith is not some savior that you offer 2 first-round picks for. You just don't do that with a guy like that. This is what I say to people all the time. Yeah, you want to make a trade to get yourself over the top, but you don't want to sell your soul in the process. But you don't want to offer more and just make a trade to make a trade. What I think that happens, and this is just human nature with any fan of any franchise in the NBA and the NFL, name it. I think people just sort of get hyped up with new. They want to see new.
Yes.
They don't necessarily they don't care about how much it makes sense. They just want that new shiny toy to play with.
100%.
And that's what the Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith stuff sort of feels like. But it has to make sense. And I'm glad Zach Kleiman stuck to his guns and didn't say, oh, we'll throw in another first-round pick to go get Dorian Finney-Smith. It just doesn't make sense.
Would you offer more draft picks for Cam Johnson?
Yeah.
Or would
younger?
Or would you go to a higher level player in that trade? Would you go Santi?
Sure.
Or would you go
for Cam Johnson? I would probably give up a little bit more. It would make more sense. It's a younger guy, more consistent 3-point and offensive player,
a more dynamic player all the way through? Yeah,
he can score at most all 3 levels. Like he's just a better offensive player and a more productive player game to game than Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah.
Dorian Finney-Smith obviously brings the defensive side of the ball into the equation, so that's a little different. But also Dorian Finney-Smith costs less, so I thought it was the more realistic option for the Grizzlies. But again, like D'Angelo Russell, who else was it that they threw in
Maxwell
there?
Lewis.
Maxwell Lewis, who was the first round pick they took a couple of years ago, and then 3 second-round picks.
Yeah.
If they beat you out with that, whatever. That's
good.
That's a fair amount of draft capital for the Nets, who are looking for a lot of draft capital in the next few years. And if I'm the Grizzlies, just to be clear, when it comes to like giving up second-round picks, I know they don't sound valuable to you. I know they don't sound valuable to Grizzlies, but the Zach Kleiman second-round pick experience has been phenomenal. I would think twice if I'm the Grizzlies front office about giving those up. You have a starter right now, Jalen Wells, who's probably a leader in Rookie of the Year. You know what I mean? Like Cam Spencer is pretty damn good. Vince Williams Jr., G.G. Jackson. Like I would think twice. The Lakers don't do well with second-round picks. They don't care about them. If I'm Zach Kleiman, I'm like, I have these 3 second-round picks. I could probably, I could find a diamond in the rough. I've done it before. I've done it several times before. He honestly has more luck in the second round than he does in the first.
Yeah. You want me to give you want 3 first-round draft picks? I'll give you those. Don't take my second rounders. Don't take my second rounders. I cook with those things.
I think the anger from that really comes down to everybody wants that shiny new toy, and when you don't get it, you throw a fit like that spoiled kid on Christmas Day that doesn't get exactly what he asked his mom for.
Yeah,
or he asked Santa for.
There's a level of like, I have a group chat that I called it trade porn. We just want to just get off on the next big trade, and it's like, have a little bit of stick-to-itiveness, right? Be able to stick with it and see what happens. Because again, you've been without Vince and Gigi for the entirety of the year. What if Gigi is DFS and Cam Johnson combined?
Well, I don't know about all of that. That's a pretty high bar.
I'm just saying.
One of the best defenders in the league and a pretty damn good offensive player.
I'm just saying.
But he does have that. He has some damn good upside.
You look at Gigi's numbers from his rookie year, and the comps for those rookie numbers were like next level.
I think a better way of putting it, you get Vince Williams Jr. and you get Gigi back.
You get them both back.
You're getting the defense that you liked from Dorian Finney-Smith. You're getting the offense that you liked from Cam Johnson.
And you've already got those 2 dudes under contract for less than what you paid Jay.
Still, to think about the depth of this team, you still have some damn talented players that when those 2 players get back, you're going to have to decide who's going to play, who's not. So you have a deep team. You have one of the deepest teams in the National Basketball Association. I think sometimes you just need to slow your roll a little bit. They are 22-11 second in the Western Conference.
They're okay.
Not that many tweaks they need to make. I would have been fine with the DFS or Cam Johnson trade, but again, don't want to sell my soul on the way to go make that happen.
The ability to say no and walk away is such a fantastic bit. Like the Lakers had to make a move, Gabe. They had to. They have to, because they are in the land of shiny toys. Like they don't know how to function without. They want to get rid of their coach every single year. They want to get rid of this. The only constant is LeBron James. Correct. Right? But to make him happy, they had to bring in Bronny and give him a 2-year guaranteed contract. And they live in the land of shiny toys over there.
Yes.
So you
have to make some splashes here and there. You had to.
Memphis, you don't have to, boy.
And they're not playing well. I think that's the more important part. They're in the land of shining toys, and they're not in their mid. And they're not very good.
Their shiny toys are mid.
Grizzlies are not in the land of shiny toys, and they're good. you know, it's a complete polar opposite. You don't have to make a move just to make a move.
To give a callback, we have a head coach for our university that just admitted that he makes phone calls now to talk references for players that he recruits, and we love him and we're patient with him. This is the land in which we live. So be patient with the Grizzlies roster. Be patient with the development of their guys. They're still second place in the Western Conference. We don't live in.
This does not mean every trade possibility by the time the trade deadline comes is off the table.
Yeah,
they could pull a rabbit out of the hat, find somebody else.
I saw somebody say on Twitter, I think it might have been Chase Deep Fried or something like that.
Deep fried couch. Yeah,
Deep Fried Couch. He said reports are telling me the trade deadline has been moved to February 6th. I'm working to confirm. I loved it because he's basically saying, bro, the trade deadline is still here. Like it ain't over just because they didn't get.
They haven't even broken through the new year yet.
The new year. It's December 30th, December 31st.
There may be, let me just say this. There may be another DFS out there that they could go kick the tires on.
Stunning.
They could go figure something out, man. All right, but we ready to get about it?
Actually, though, I did hear the Grizzlies GM cell phone turns off. Like he doesn't have a phone after January 1st, so he can't. This is it for him. No more phone calls. He can't make any trades. He has his phone stops working. He's on C-Spire. He can't.
Well, can he at least have a beeper so he can go to the nearest payphone?
Can you get a beeper? Yeah, get a beeper, please.
Are we ready to get up out of here?
Let's get up out of here.
Phenomenal stuff. Thank you for listening out there. Make sure that you go like, share, subscribe, do all that great stuff. Check out all the great podcasts on the Bluff City Media and Believe Podcast Network. Make sure you check out Tigers on Tap, the Anthony Sane Show. We have a bunch of live shows going on after Tigers and Grizzlies games, so check all of that out. Go to bluffcitymedia.co. Check out the podcast and our articles there. But until next week, I'm going to go ahead.
I'm going to be here, but I'll be here. I don't know what
I'll be here. But Kenny and I are going to go ahead and say peace.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.